to SoulReign. I almost slipped up and said the old podcast name, but it hasn't happened yet. It's not going to. So, today I have a fabulous guest for you. This is a guest that I've secretly been girl crushing on for a while. She's just amazing. And as you get to meet her today, I know you're going to feel the same because she's highly talented. So, today I have the lovely Gila Zak. Welcome, Gila.
Thank you. Thank you. Girl crush. What?
You are just so talented. It's amazing to watch you get out there and to teach, and you're just so fluid and authentic and personable. And it's like, oh, I love her.
Oh, well, thank
Yeah.
you. Well, the feeling is mutual. So there you go. I know we don't know each other intimately very well, but your reputation precedes you. So I'm very, very happy to be here.
Good, I hope. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And you've had an incredible journey. So you started out with hypnotherapy at HMI, is what I was told. And you've gone
Mhm.
on to do some really incredible things. But today we're going to spend a bunch of the time talking about handwriting. Why is that?
Well, first of all, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, everybody likes to navel gaze, is what I call it. Whether it's palmistry or astrology, graphology, numerology, tarot. It's like we all, we want to look inward and know more about ourselves. And so, on the one hand, it's intriguing from that aspect, but I'm a very critical thinker, very analytical. But I'm also really woo woo and witchy, and I like weird shit. I like, oddities and things like that. So when you blend them together, I think graphology really is, and so is palmistry and numerology. They're this wonderful fusion of theory and what I call pattern recognition. So there's a coin that I turned, a term that I coined called psychic statistics.
Mm.
So statistically speaking, if you make your letters Y really big and loopy, that lower stem is really big and loopy, and you bring it all the way up through the baseline, statistically speaking, you're likely to be someone who expresses yourself physically in a big way. You need a lot of physical contact, touch, verbal reassurance, often sex, and connection is really important to you. So when we think of these different ologies, that's what I like to think of them. And so handwriting analysis was part of the curriculum at HMI. The introduction to it was, and when they offered an advanced handwriting analyst course, I thought, well, that's for me. I'm going to do it. So that's how I got started with it.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, just given that the way we are as humans, the fact that there is a deeper part of us that drives us, that keeps us functioning, and we don't get to see. I think there's a reason we're
Mhm.
always seeking it. It's because we know that it's there.
Yeah, and I think, for those of us who are hypnotherapists, especially, and to some degree, I think psychotherapists, definitely psychoanalysts, we are always wondering, what is the unconscious motivation? What's really driving this? Because we know that so often the issue is not the issue. People can come in and sit in that chair because they're having like an issue or a problem around one thing, and then next thing you know, they're like, wow, I had no idea it was related to that. And so I think just another application of a way to get a snapshot into someone's unconscious mind that is visual. And that's the thing, it's visual. It's like art. If someone were to make art, that is a visual expression of what's going on unconsciously. Only it's something that we do every day and we don't even think about it.
And so, in the realms of woo woo scientific, where does this fall?
Well, people often ask me, it's not really science though. It's not, you can't prove it. I'm like, no, you can't. It's one of those esoteric things, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value, because when we look at pattern recognition, patterns repeat. That's why we call them patterns. And so if you look at the history of handwriting over time, we can see that people who have this particular type, slant, pressure, form, size, the way that they make their ovals and communicate, they have a very similar, if not the same pattern of actual behavior. So, this is why I say, let's not discount it. Just because we can't prove how strong love feels, is it 2 tons or 50 ounces? We can't quantify it. Doesn't mean it's not real. Doesn't mean it's not useful. We're not experiencing it.
So, as you were talking about that, I was kind of having the thought of, well, that explains it, doesn't it? My writing has changed so much in the course of time. And I was like, oh God, I didn't even think, what if she asks me for something? Do I even have anything on the desk? And so I'm looking over and I'm like, is this my writing? I don't even really recognize this. I must be going through some pretty big transformations here. So does writing change as people grow and tackle certain behaviors and work with the unconscious? And how?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is a very common question I get. When we think about how we learn to write in the Western world, this is the example that I have to live with, but it's very similar around the world. And we can even talk about like different cultures and when they use caricatures for their language. However, when we're talking about specifically the Western world, we're all sitting in a classroom and there's a teacher at the top of the board at the room, and has a piece of paper. And when we were taught handwriting, we were taught this is the way you make these letters. This is the way they connect. This is where you cross and where you dot. This is how you start your beginning stroke and end. So we're all learning the same structure. And there's a reason for this. There has to be some baseline to which we all learn to make a letter so that we can recognize it, so that someone's not making a D like this and a D like that. That looks completely different. So what happens is right around the age of when puberty starts, we start to identify and differentiate separate from our family of origin, society, culture. We start to grow into who we're going to be. So if you go back and look at your handwriting from high school, you're going to start to see the tells of where you are today, but it's going to likely be quite different than today because we're not 17, 19, right? 16. So yes, handwriting does change over time as our personality changes. So to the degree that we want to individuate or differentiate from the standard norm, that is the way that our handwriting is going to change. And it is an expression of our mood of the moment. It's how we're feeling in the now. So people will often say, well, I have more than one style. I mean, sometimes I write with a slant, sometimes I write straight up, sometimes big, sometimes small. That's normal too, because it's an expression of the unconscious where it's at that time.
As you were talking about that, my subconscious was showing me, oh yeah, remember high school when you were trying to like model how mom would write? And I, of course, the letters were always bigger and there were bigger swoops and things. That's not my nature. That's not who I am. So I never really could mimic it exactly. And then at some point I finally just let it go. So it's just an interesting way to look at it.
I love that you say that. Oh you're my favorite person to interview for me for this, because what's coming up in your head is like the perfect segue to the next segment. But yeah, so this is so true. When we're trying to form my identity, we are going to want to model after certain traits of people. And oftentimes we don't even know what it is. We can't quantify it. We just want to be like them. And so if we know that person and we happen to see the handwriting, we will start to mimic certain things. But the fact that it didn't feel right for you, you know, if your handwriting, your lower zones are really big and loopy and mother's are more narrow, more controlled, that's just really a presentation of how opposite your personalities are in that particular letter, perhaps. I mean, there might be other areas where you can see crossover, but yeah, this is not an unusual thing. As we're trying on things, right? I know people that shave. That my husband's an ex-punker, you know. So you go through these different identities when you're trying to figure out who you are. Until, I shouldn't say ex-punker, he's an old punker, but you know what I mean. In high school, there was this.
It's in there still.
Exactly. It's in there. But you know, we're trying all these different identities, and that's what handwriting is too, until it settles into kind of who we've become, and it's going to continue to evolve.
Yeah. I'm already going to be heading downstairs to see if I can find any of Alan's writing, just to be like, yeah. We'll see if that changes after he's left his military career behind. That'll be interesting. It's fun that I get to see that transition, so I'm kind of planning for it. But now I'll be looking at his writing at the same time. Emailing you stuff over.
If he's in the military, he's likely going to, a lot of military law enforcement, they will print. And a lot of that is because of what they do. They have to be very clear, and their writing has to be very legible. And printing itself denotes structure. They don't really need to be seen by other people, especially if they're in a position of authority. They don't want people to see their soft underside. And so the printing, the block letters is a way to like, this is what you get to see, and that is it. Because the more cursive is the flow of the way that emotions are flowing through us. So people who tend to print, their emotions just generally are kept below the surface for other people to see. But yeah, so we can see that. Now, he may not change from his block printing or his chain or his all capitals. However, you might see pressure changes, you might see slant changes and things like that.
That's fascinating. That's right on the money. All of his writing is very block, very clear, and sometimes it's actually nicer because mine's chaos. ADD brain, so it's everywhere. There are doodles on the pages. Probably reflects my mind, but no, his is very neat and pristine and tidy and easy to write. I don't think I've ever seen him do cursive. I wondered if you had an opinion on cursive and that it's not being taught in schools. What is that like for the work that you do?
I see it more with the Gen Z and Gen Y because they weren't really taught, but it's actually been making a comeback in schools. There's lots of school districts who are pushing for it because they see now how actually teaching handwriting helps to develop motor skill. This ability of the finer motor skill. And it's very important for brain structures to have a thought and to express that thought through fine motor skill, putting pen to paper, and then your eyes see it. It creates this feedback loop. And so they're finding exactly how important it is for children to learn handwriting structure. So it's coming back. But even if somebody doesn't know how to write in cursive, they all know how to print, and you can still see a lot of information from that.
I'm gonna date myself in referencing this, but it's all good. I'm gonna start accepting it. In elementary school, I developed a weird fascination around calligraphy. And it kind of makes me think of that of, oh, we stepped away from this really overt, beautiful, artful practice, a super meditative practice. And writing is one of those things that all hypnotists know it's got magical powers. It takes us into the realms of the unconscious and puts it on paper in a way that we can consciously connect with after. And so I'm wondering about like brain development as that's happening and all of that time that I spent playing with calligraphy, how that might have taken me on a certain journey. That's just really fascinating to look at.
It is. And once in a while, I get a handwriting sample from all my clients. They bring it with me. They bring it with them for their first session. If it's virtual, then they scan it and email it to me or shoot me a picture. And sometimes people come in and it's with calligraphy. And I will ask them, oh, I bet you're somebody who's really interested in history. Oh, I am. Oh, and I bet are you artistic? Oh, yeah. And I bet you have a beautiful home, lots of aesthetics, you like textures and things. Oh, I do. And so, you can see certain things that come through. The other day I had a gentleman who came in, he was 86 and he forgot to bring his sample, which is okay because he's like, I'm not really a computer person. So I gave him a piece of paper and I went to hand him a pen. He says, oh no, I have my fountain pen right here. And he pulls it out of his pocket and it has a calligraphy tip. And he writes and I'm watching him. And it was really a delight to see him do that and just the connection that he had with his writing instrument.
Did you see him immediately drop into trance already as he began? I bet he did.
I think I went into trance, Amanda. I was like, oh.
I think I would too. It's incredible. You got to wonder as we move away from some of these practices that we've done for so many years, just how it's going to affect our brains in the end. I don't want to think about it. I would rather we bring those things back. Yeah. So if we can learn a lot about the person, their behavior, their needs, the way they are in the world about their writing, can the reverse also happen if they intentionally start shifting their writing? Can that reverse engineer their behavior in the world?
To some degree, yes. So it's often like a chicken and the egg syndrome, because there's a very famous book that was written long ago called Change Your Handwriting, Change Your Life. Because if handwriting is an unconscious expression of needs, wants, behaviors, preferences, tendencies, and traits, then we can see that as those change, the handwriting changes. If there's something we need to change, if we change the exaggerated flourish or pressure or stroke in the handwriting, then yes, the idea is that it teaches the subconscious to shift and change that behavior. So yeah, I give clients sometimes graphotherapeutic exercises to do, especially if I see their signature, because the signature tells us one thing and the handwriting tells us another. And if someone's signature is it has a lot of, they've written it out and then they do this little lines through it. And then they'll do a boom when they're done. It's like, whoa, that tells me that there's a need to hide, a need to not be seen. There's a canceling out of the self. And then when they put that point on the bottom, that's unconscious aggression, unresolved anger and resentment. And so I will tell them, and they're usually writing about what they want to resolve with hypnosis anyway, so I can kind of see it. But even if they just write me a grocery list and they put their signature, we can see that there's some there's some really unresolved emotional stuff that needs to be taken care of. And then I will say, hey, once we finish the therapy, I wonder if you might be curious enough, based on the way you're going to be feeling differently, to not do that with just sign your name and let the pen just go, just leave it. And then when I explain to them why, they're like, oh my God, that's right. That's my family name. And I hate my father, and he was abusive, alcoholic. And so it's an unconscious. And I'll ask, is that last name a family name? Is it a married name? Sometimes it's the married name, and you can read their first name just fine. But when they're signing that last name, so there's unconscious resentment toward the partner. So yeah, this is where the graphotherapeutic exercises come in for sure.
Is there any meaning if they add an initial, like the middle initial?
Mm-hmm. So middle initials are generally people who like to conform a little bit more to societal norms and expectations. And they just like to show up in the world a bit more, how we say, proper. A funny story is that I used to sign my name Gila M Zak.
Yeah.
I mean, I had from the minute, even when I signed my maiden name Lambert, it was Gila M Lambert. It's like, I need to have this in there. And I don't know why I had to have it in there, but I did.
Yeah.
So once I did my own hypnotherapy, my own hypnosis on things to let go of lack of confidence. I used to have really terrible body dysmorphia, negative body issues, just a lot of insecurities in certain areas. And once I worked through all that shit, I noticed one day I was no longer using the middle initial M.
Huh. Yeah.
It just occurred to me. It just didn't feel as comfortable. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't need to show up as proper anymore. I can swear and cuss and tell you exactly what I think about you if I want to.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That is so deeply fascinating. What is your favorite part about that exploration?
That's a good question. I think my favorite part about it is to look back and see how we add unnecessarily things into our experience as a way to be seen, as a way we want people to see us. And there's never anything wrong about this, right? There's never anything wrong about wanting to be seen as proper or credible or professional. I mean, I dress this way because I like it, but it's like, I don't need that middle initial in there anymore to be the stamp that everybody sees, because our signature is kind of like the name badge that we wear. So that when everyone greets us, they kind of have an impression of who we are. And yeah, I just don't need that anymore. So yeah, in hindsight, it's like, yeah, it feels good.
Yeah. And so when you're taking people through the process, you mentioned that they come in, that's part of the intake, and then you're able to pivot from there and decide what to work on, or maybe they've got their topic already. What happens next?
Well, it all depends on what I see in the handwriting, Amanda, to be quite honest. We can spot suicidal ideation. We can see neurosis. We can see certain depths of pathology, even psychopathy. It just depends on how big the sample they bring. So I always tell people, write as much or as little as you feel inclined to about what you'd like to resolve with hypnotherapy. Because number one, they're writing about something with emotion. And it's important to note that whenever we are getting a sample from someone, we want them to be writing it with both feet flat on the floor, writing on a table, their elbow or arm supported, because that's how we're going to get the most accurate. If you're sitting on the couch with the notebook up on your knees, you're not going to get a completely accurate analysis from that. But if they come in and I see certain things, then I will say, we're going to need to get a psychiatric referral or release, maybe a medical referral. And just the other day, someone came in and wow, I mean, I could see alcoholism or substance abuse, some sort of addiction was running really, really strong through this
Wow.
person's handwriting. And that's not something that they disclosed. They came in for, gotta be careful, I live in a really small town. They came in for a particular specific issue that had nothing to do with that. It was a singular event that they wanted to reframe. And when I said, you know what, I want to make sure that we can utilize this experience to maximize benefit for you, but I got to say, have you imbibed in any, alcohol or drugs before you got here? And they were just like, looking at me like, how did you know? Okay, well, so yeah, the pivot was, okay, let's have you come back when you're a little bit more clear-headed. And there you go.
That was really protective for you, but also for them. And it's like most hypnotists say, it's never what they come in for that is usually at the base of it. It's always something else that's actually at the root. So it makes perfect sense that that would come out that way. But in writing, oh my goodness, I'd never imagined. My little YM subscription in my teenage years of that magazine did not go into detail about that. Otherwise, I would have wanted to have learned way more.
Well, for people who are hypnotherapists that see clients in person, if you are of the female persuasion and you're seeing men, it can be really helpful. I mean, I'm going to touch wood. I've never had, over going on 13 years and 1,700 people, I've never had a situation where I felt uncomfortable to the degree where I needed to ask someone to leave. Yeah. So that's really good. However, I did get a client that reached out to me from the Sexual Freedom website. I trained with Kaz Riley doing her Sexual Freedom protocol, and he reached out to me because he had some sexual dysfunctions. He was using porn really, really heavily, and a very religious person, and having a lot of conflict about it, and married, all this stuff. So I said, well, I need you to send me a sample of handwriting. So he sends me the sample, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not working with this person. I am seeing a tendency for just all sorts of stuff that I don't even want this man to go into trance with me. So it was really, really helpful to see some, because we're always looking to confirm or negate traits. I want to be really clear. Handwriting is never right or wrong, good or bad. We're looking to confirm or negate what we see. So if I see a tendency for obsessive behavior, and then over here, I see a tendency for sexual behaviors that are outside of cultural norms. And then over here, I see a really heavy pressure, which tells me this person has a lot of intensity to them. And then I start to see that the way they make certain strokes could imply cruelty, things like that. And then secondarily, I read for content, and he was talking about how the kind of porn he likes to watch are women of my age with silver hair. And I'm like, yeah.
Nope. Nope, that would be no.
Now, granted, if I just had the handwriting sample, if I didn't even know anything about graphology, I would have thought that was creepy AF.
I have a male colleague for you in another state who will see you virtually.
Exactly.
Sorry, that's how it's going. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that, like I said, that's only happened once. And yeah, so there you go.
And so how long have you been on this journey with graphology?
Oh, wow. It's going on 13 years. It was required to graduate get your diploma through the College of Hypnotherapy that I went to. And because I got the advanced certification, I just thought it would be a wonderful way to promote hypnosis, promote unconscious behaviors. That's what we are. And so, yeah, and it's a great party trick. It's pretty fun. There's one of the stories I love to tell is years ago, I was at a hypnosis conference in Florida, and I went to lunch with some people that a lot of people, if not everyone, would know. And I'm sitting across from this guy, and he's like, so you do handwriting? Oh, here. What does my signature say? And so he gave me his signature, and I just started telling him what I saw. And he just got very, very uncomfortable. He pulled his signature back, and he's like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. So, well, you asked, So be careful what you wish for.
He's sitting in my seat. He had no idea it could go into that much depth in so many different directions. But speaking of Florida, you're attending there again this year.
Yes, I'm going to be going to the Hypno Expo this time, and it is in Orlando. It's in May. I'm going to be teaching a 2-day post-conference training on handwriting analysis for coaches and therapists. And when I got my certification, it was really about here's how to identify certain traits and tendencies within your client so that you kind of know, you have a little blueprint ahead of time. But I thought, I want to take this a step further. I want to really support coaches and therapists of any kind. How do we actually curate that information and use it in a way for therapy? And so that's what this handwriting analysis course is going to be. It's going to be as therapists, because, we could go get these books. I have a ton of books on this, because you find a new one, you're like, oh, I don't have that one. Is there something different in there? And after a while, you're like, no, it's kind of all the same, because there's really only so much that you can write about a very limited topic, right? Because it is somewhat limited. There's only 26 letters and only a certain amount of ways that we make those letters. But I thought what would be different about it is to make it a book specifically for how to use it in a very unique and niche way.
And so what is like the foundation requirement to attend, or is it open to anyone within the hypnotherapeutic realms or therapeutic realms?
It's open to anyone that wants to, because it's a post-conference training, so you don't have to attend the conference to come to the training. However, I always encourage people to come to the conferences, because if you're interested in this type of thing, you're going to find all kinds of interesting people and interesting topics there that might just, get you curious in other ways too. And it's really fairly reasonable to attend the conferences, especially if you're local and already in the region. It's quite, practical to do so from a price point too.
And you don't have to be a hypnotist to do it. There's a lot to learn, a lot to enjoy, and it's really, no matter which conference I attend, hypnotists really just are a different breed. We love to laugh, we love to play, we're warm, we're inviting. Some of us are introverted, others of us a little more extroverted, but we're definitely a different industry, and it's one where there's a lot of warmth, there's a lot of support, and you're going to find your people. So if you're not a hypnotist, come check it out anyway. We have some fun.
And I would say, I've had people say, well, you should certify people, and maybe I will one day. But the truth is, you and I both know certifications only mean one thing, and that means that you've had training. Have you applied it? Are you qualified for it? So if someone's going to certify you in something, that means that you have an applicable method of which you can express a skill set or a level of expertise to a degree. Yeah. But I happen to know plenty of friends and colleagues that went to HMI, and they don't use handwriting analysis at all. A couple of them went through the advanced handwriting analysis course and don't use it regularly. So they might be certified, but if it's really rusty and dusty for them, there's where's the, I don't know. Then you have Gretchen, who's never been certified, but who's been fascinated with it, much like you, since her YM magazine. And she's read every book, and she practices on people, and she does it for friends, and she does it as a hobby. She might have an incredible level of expertise in this field. So if anyone's even interested, I say, come and learn. And for people who are novice, who aren't going to use it professionally, wouldn't you be interested to know that a business partner, a romantic partner, if you're going to get a tutor for your child, get a handwriting sample from these people, and you're going to be able to see, are they compatible? Are they somebody who is, likely to be warm and kind, or stern and, a jerk? You're going to be able to see all that in the handwriting, even if you're just a novice.
So you don't even have to run a background check anymore. You can just send samples to Sheila.
Oh my gosh, Amanda, I have to tell you, I love crime. I love mystery. I'm
obsessed.
Murder story. I love that shit. And I always have. And I read every Nancy Drew, every Hardy Boys. I took a reading break for a few years in my late teens into my early 20s, just because of life and stuff. And the book that got me hooked back in the reading was Silence of the Lambs. I'm like, oh my God, where have my books been? And then I went on just this full on serial killer spree. But what I love about it is, again, I'm wondering what the unconscious motivations are for these people. Yeah. So, and when you say, send me your background check. Yeah. I would love in another or a parallel life to be like an FBI profiler or something, or a CIA analyst.
My husband doesn't understand why I watch the things I watch, but he always criticizes it, but then he jumps in and he likes it. lately it's 90 Day Fiance and all of that. He's like, "Why are you watching this? This is the worst." And I'm like, "Because you see every human behavior possible, and it's at the point where I can sit here and I can predict. I can tell you where that person's going, and it's so fun."
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And along that same model, this is what handwriting can tell us. It can give us
Yeah.
a statistical prediction of how a person is likely to behave in a whole host of contexts: sexual,
That makes
professional,
sense.
social, physical, you name it.
At this point, I'm thinking, if only I could get a copy of like Gypsy Rose's handwriting and send it over. You could have like the whole analysis breakdown. Oh, that's fascinating. I don't know how you get any sleep. I would be just endlessly entertained by this. But I'm guessing that's where your love of psychology kind of kicked off.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been curious about human behavior. I was not very early to speak verbally. I was the youngest of three at that time, and so I just didn't talk a lot initially. A lot of times, younger children don't have to. People just do stuff
Yeah.
for them, their siblings and whatnot. So they took me to the doctor, and the doctor said, "There's nothing wrong with her. She'll talk when she's ready." And I just was observing. I just observed everything. And then when I did start talking, I asked, why? Why? And my mom said, can somebody why did this child start talking? So I think it's just an endless curiosity of human behavior that
Yeah.
never ceases to fascinate me. And I want to really highlight that my own fucking behavior intrigues me the most.
Right?
I'm most intrigued by why I do what I do and why I think what I think. Um,
Endlessly so. Yes. I'm constantly
yeah,
wondering, what the heck was that about? Really? It's like,
exactly. I know. And
yeah.
um, but yeah, I was born into a very counter culture
Mm,
family in the late 60s. I was born in the summer of love, 1967. And so in the early 70s in rural East Texas, people were pretty conservative. It's
yeah.
just in their dress, their demeanor, their behavior. And then here comes this, hippy dippy family where dad shaves his head and, wears an iguana skin purse and bell bottoms. And so very early on, I was like, what you remember Sesame Street? This thing doesn't go with the other. This thing is kind of the same. And so it was like, yeah, why are
Yeah.
we so freaking different from all? How can they get white bread and we don't? So anyway, I think that's where my lifelong love of the mysteries of life began.
I love that. I love that so much. It resonates so much because I remember thinking the same for my family of origin of where do these people come from? I know somebody dropped me off from somewhere. It just doesn't make sense.
I
They're so
switched at
weird.
birth.
Either they're weird or I'm weird. I don't care who's weird, but one of us is not like the other for sure.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
much was
yeah.
clear. So I don't even know where to go because you've just got a whole universe of possibility to explore here, and I'm entertained with every facet at the moment. Do you have a new direction you want to go and explore?
To some degree, I do. I really have loved teaching. I got into teaching about my third year into being a hypnotherapist. My second, I'd only been a hypnotist for about 2.5 years, and I went to Hypnothoughts Live for the first time, and I was just like
Yeah,
many of us, it's the world's biggest hypnosis conference, the most diverse topics out there. I mean,
yeah.
they'll touch topics that for some conferences are like the third rail, right? You stay away from those.
Mhm.
And so I was just so blown away. And I had already been doing public speaking for a while because that's how I built my business. I used to be terrified of even
Mm,
standing up and saying my name in front of a room
yeah,
of people. But through my own self-hypnosis and systematic desensitization through
mhm,
experience,
yeah,
I found that I really loved teaching. And so then I started applying and teaching there. So what I would really like to do more of is travel and teach. I would love to be invited by organizations or other hypnotherapy schools to teach this, or
yeah.
to teach certain applications that I've kind of played with and amalgamated for myself. So that's what I would like to do more of, is to get a phone call from, my friend Rob de Groof over in Belgium. He's like, I want to get you over here to teach handwriting
Yeah.
analysis. I'm like, when? When can we do that? So, yeah, I wouldn't say it's an entirely new direction, but I would definitely like to do that.
I think it's got so many applications, even just working one-on-one with people, especially if they're going to be people who are doing any kind of journaling for self-reflection in between. There's a lot that could be doing there. Yeah.
It is. And something I noticed myself the other day is all of a sudden I started making my capital B's with this weird little, with this flourish at the top. You know, the B's are really about the way that we balance what we're thinking in our head and
Mhm.
what we're feeling in our body, and the way that we bring all this into the day to day when we're talking about the capital letter. And I've always made my B's really nice and bubbly and round. And right now there's this like whip flourish that's going on. And so what that tells me is that what's going on in my conscious mind is something that has a bit more energy, uh, a bit more edginess to it. Uh,
Yeah.
my tongue can be like a whip sometimes. When we see people who
Yeah.
use a lot of whips in their handwriting, we could say, I bet you have a sharp tongue sometimes.
Is
Not
it looking
always in
for
the
that
kind way.
creative way out, like that creative
Mhm.
way to be expressed?
Yeah, and there's a flourish to it. So there is a flourish that I am adding to my business that's different than what I've done before. So I can see that because B does also specifically relate to business and ethics.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see how some of the little edgier things I'm doing with my business is coming out in my handwriting. It's pretty delightful.
Oh, that's fun. You mentioned HypnoThoughts Live, and you've got an upcoming class there too. I'll put the link up here for people who want to take a look
Yes,
at it. Do you want
yes.
to enhance and talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's going to be in July, and this is my all-time favorite conference for the reasons that I have already mentioned, but also because it's this one in particular feels like a combination of Hogwarts, spring break, and summer camp and family reunion. It's all of that in one. So yeah, it's going to be 2 days in Las Vegas, and the same thing applies. You don't necessarily need to attend the conference, but the thing about the conference in Vegas is I know Vegas is not everyone's favorite place, but the hotel rooms in the summer are a steal simply because it's so hot there. So you can get a midweek room for $60 at the conference rate, which is crazy. So anyway, that's another plug for why I would invite someone, even if you're a novice, to come to the course, because you're going to get a lot out of it. And you get to leave with a handwriting manual, a 100+ page manual written by me specifically for coaches and therapists.
And then for someone who's taken a class, is there additional mentoring that could happen in the future, or updates, or how do they keep growing their new skill?
Yes, in all honesty, I've only taught this once before, and there were 8 students, I believe. And so I am going to start a monthly meetup group. Once I get these other 2 trainings under my belt after July, then I'm going to send out, hey, let's just get together once a month and we can ask questions, we can practice, and I can even do certain assignments if people want them, just for extra going deep with the practice part. So yeah, thank you for asking for that, because someone
Yeah.
else suggested I should do that as well. I'm like, that's a good idea. I should.
And so when someone comes to see you, what I am told, the hypnotist of hypnotists, and I absolutely believe it, you've been described as people's secret weapon. Just so you know,
Oh, really?
in case you hadn't heard it, I'm going to
Really?
out it.
Wow. I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
Um,
Do
Go
you have
ahead.
a favorite demographic of people that you love to work with these days?
No, I just like people. I find people really interesting. Uh, you know what it's like. Once in a while, you get a curmudgeon, and you're like, a challenge. They're gonna walk out of here smiling. I have no doubt. Or, one of my favorite things to do, though, is what so many of us do as hypnotists, and that is to remind people of who they really are.
Mhm.
Before the residues, the imprints, the echoes of all the bullshit that you went through, created these masks and these defenses and coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
It's like, let's help you remember that and feel confident again, because I think it's so important for those of us who do this to work on ourselves, because
Yeah.
I think it just gives us a greater empathy and insight into what our clients are going through. So if I see somebody that comes in for body issues of any kind,
Mhm.
maybe they've had an injury or an accident and they have scarring, or they want to change, their weight release, they want to lose a few pounds, whatever it is. They just have a really
Mhm.
negative self-image. Body image is a really special one to me because I used to have body dysmorphia, and they would look at me and see my stature and size and build and like, "Pff, why would you ever have any?" And I'm like, you don't get it.
Yeah.
It's in here.
Mhm.
It's in here. So,
Yeah.
regardless of how, if you get plastic surgery to move that scar, or if you release 5 or 10 or 20 pounds, what's still in here is going to influence you. So let's change
Yeah.
that and
Mm.
use that as a leverage to, let's just
Yeah.
use it as a leverage point, as a fulcrum to kind of shift that perception of ourselves so that we can make the change we want.
I love it when it's those clients where it's just one internal thing. Like, they're living their life in a way where they're doing all the things right on the outside, and it's just not working. And it's because there's that one last lever that just needs to pull, and then the whole thing can rearrange
Yeah.
and finally be effective for them. That's always amazing to witness.
Yeah,
Do
it
you have any
is.
favorites like
It's
that?
Well, I personally think it's a genuine honor and a privilege if somebody allows me to speak directly to their subconscious mind. And when I do spiritual hypnosis, to their higher self,
Yeah.
or even if they do channeling and they allow me to dialogue with their guides. And, depending upon what your belief system is, I work really clinically and I work really woo woo and metaphysically and every point in between, just depending
Yeah.
upon the client or the need. But I mean that really genuinely. I don't take it lightly. It really is a privilege. And I think when we look at it from that angle, I can't help but be in awe after all these years and literally probably 30,000 hours worth of sessions now. It To see people walk out that door and there's something lighter or different about them. And let's be honest, it's not going to necessarily change their whole world, their whole life, but it's going to change a part of it.
Yeah.
And then for some people, it is the missing piece. They've done all the therapy, they've done all
Mhm.
the psilocybin journeys, they've done all the shit and there is out to do out there.
Yeah.
And that is that last little piece of the Jenga tower that makes all the old shit collapse.
Yeah.
But even if it's just changing one thing in a
Mhm.
person's life that makes all the rest of the other stuff easier to manage, I am so good with that. So good with
Yeah.
that.
I love quantum sessions as well. And sometimes the most amazing things come through, and sometimes it seems completely mundane. Like, I've had people like come through and they're like, well, that was, everything I kind of already knew, but here it is, right in front of my face in a way that I
Yeah.
can no longer just bypass or avoid it. Or other times it's extreme stuff, and it's like things they really didn't plan on having, things they didn't know. I've had sessions myself where a higher self knew things, and it knew things like a solid year ahead. And I'm like, really? So
Nice.
they are magical sessions. There's a lot that can come through, and it is wild how it can be just that one last final straw that needed to change to break the camel's back, or it can be a series of foundational steps that then they then take to a brand new life. And I think that's
Yeah.
the fun of hypnosis and what we get to do overall is just it's
Yeah.
like winning the hypnosis lottery. We never know exactly how they're going to win in different ways, how it's going to ripple out. We just know that they're going to win.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I've never niched, because I need
Yeah.
I need variety, baby. I don't want to get bored. And the great thing is, yes, you have 5 people coming in for biting their nails, and there's going to be
Yeah.
some similarities, but there's going to be a whole ton of difference. And so it's just, I don't know. I don't think I could work with just one thing like sports or smoking cessation, or I like to do it
Mhm.
all. So
I
anyway,
think there is an element of excitement in the challenge. I'm similar. I like to see something different. I don't like doing the same thing. And I'm kind of like in awe sometimes. I'm a little envious of those practitioners that step out in the world and they just have that one modality and they are balls to the wall with that one modality. And it's like, I love that for you. That's beautiful. I could never.
yeah,
I could never.
that's the thing. That is a great analogy for all of life. If it works for you, do it. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it.
Yeah.
And we can all play in the sandbox and have fun at the same time, you know?
Yeah. So, with all of the conferences, the teaching, working with clients, do you have anything new and exciting on the horizon that you're trying to fit into a very active life?
Well, recently I met someone at a hypnosis conference last year who's introduced me to some people in the Bay Area that are doing some really cool and interesting things that hypnosis kind of par overlays with. And so I've been invited to some private events up there that have been really fascinating. So, um, aside from that, I just have a really rich family life. I've been with my husband for over 40 years. We met in high school,
Oh,
and we've been through all the things that anybody could be through, and here we are, and our grown children that still live close by, and my parents are close by now. So I think I'm really grateful to be in the sweet spot with things. It's not to say there aren't challenges from day to day
yeah,
that come up,
yeah,
but I'm just really grateful that the effort and the energy that I've intentionally
mm,
put to get here has brought me here. And I know that, the only constant is change, right? So things will
yes.
change, and I have no doubt that in the future there are going to be other hurdles to jump. But I think right now I'm just trying to navigate the generalities of the shifts that are happening everywhere around us and just try to stay as grounded as possible.
And it's really, really easy to do so many things at once. I am the queen of way too many projects all the time. And there's a real beauty in being present and slowing down with what is, especially when you've had a really fulfilling career, you've had a good, fulfilling marriage, you've got a family that you get to watch grow. It's important to take time and to really enjoy those things as they are in the moment. Yeah, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think thank you. Yes, and I think the art is learning to say no,
Oh, God.
because I was
Yes.
on a no, that's not for me. Thanks,
Yeah.
but no thanks. Like you don't
It
have
can
to
be
take
so
every
fun.
offering. You don't have to take every offering when you go to Costco and they're like trying to give you little samples. Like, no,
Yeah.
because I was on a board of a nonprofit, a women's business networking organization that was also a philanthropic organization, and oh my God, I did that for many, many years as president, vice president, as secretary, as you name it, over the years. And so there just came a point in time where I just had to say no. And learning to say no is hard for a lot of people because you don't want to
Yeah.
disappoint. And that I felt that too. But my advice to anybody is when you need to say no to something or someone, just be honest and be from the heart. And
Mhm.
it doesn't really matter how they take it. I can remember the last time a few years ago when they asked me to be on the board again. I said, I really appreciate you asking. That means that you must think I'm capable and qualified. So thank you. But I can't currently show up the way that I would want to for you and that you would expect me to. So I'm going to have to say no.
Yeah. And the people that
I mean,
really
how do you
matter.
argue with that? You
Yeah.
can't, right?
Well, I
So,
mean, there are always some people who will, but there are, the people who really care about you, they'll receive it gracefully. I had to
yeah.
pivot on something yesterday that I really wanted to do. And it's like, with everything changing, if I really want the highest quality of this one thing, I can't have 50 other things over here. It just can't
I
happen.
know.
And I was really
Yeah.
fortunate that the colleague that I was going to go in on something with, he didn't even bat an eye. There wasn't
Yeah.
a, a,
That's good.
a judgment, a grimace, nothing. It was just pure love of, hey, you know what? I get it. Maybe we'll
That's
look at something in
fantastic.
the future. That's cool. And the people who love you, they will. That is how it will be. And it's my
Yeah.
favorite topic. Actually, in March, I'm going to be teaching a 4-hour workshop on boundaries, the ins, the outs, the whys they do work, the whys they don't work, and why we need them.
Mhm.
So that's my love
Brilliant.
language at the moment. Yes.
Well, send me that link and I will send it out to my clients if they want to
Oh,
do a 4-day workshop with you. I'd be happy
4 hour, no, 4 days is that's something
4 days.
I'd say
I'm
no
sorry.
to.
Yes, 4 days. There you go. My
That's a
mistake.
no for me, 4 days.
You're still
I'm a
good. You're
homebody
still
and a
good.
gamer. I've got pets. No, no 4 days. No. Yeah, it's such a good topic. It's so important. And I think, especially as women in society, we're raised often to be the good girl, to be the one who's helpful, be the family therapist, be the one who's always giving and doing. And it's like, yeah, I could do
Mhm.
that if you want bad quality at every single thing I'm going to do,
Yeah.
or I could have really great quality in three of those things.
Yeah. I completely agree. I completely agree. And I think too, it is a lot of social conditioning. I mean, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
But I think for those of us who have been disappointed, I mean, speaking for myself, childhood was one big disappointment after another. And so after a while, you're like, God, I don't want to ever make somebody else feel disappointed. So it's not so much that we feel that we need to please or there's the conditioning, because that definitely comes into play. But I think it's just we just don't want to disappoint people, and if we can help it. But then I think what you and I do is teach people that we are only responsible for what we say and how we say it, not for what they hear and how they react. And the same goes with what we choose to do or not do. They can judge or criticize or not, but that is a really freeing space to step into. And
The flip side
important.
for me was when I started saying no. I loved how the people around me started to grow. And it's like, I was a selfish jerk taking all of that on. They robbed you of all of these incredible opportunities. Now look at them out there fishing for themselves. Love that.
Yeah. So true. It is true. I mean, there was a lot of addiction in my family. There's no accident that so many of us that go into the different avenues of therapy have somebody with mental illness or addiction or something going on, mental health issues. And so, there was a lot of codependency for me when I was younger. And even in my relationship with my husband, because I met him when I was so young. And so, recognizing that when we do step in for somebody to fix and save or carry, we're really denying them the opportunity to stand up and let those legs of their own get stronger. They might fall at first, they might get really hurt, but there's really no way to learn, right? And so it is a real blessing for everyone when we no longer deny them the opportunity. And I can remember, there's on my biological dad's side of the family, that's where all the hippy dippy stuff is. And I remember I had a younger sister at the point, she's since passed, but at one point she said something to me. She's like, "You're just a cold-hearted bitch." I said, "No, I just love you, but I don't like you. And I'm not going to put up with this anymore. And I'm just not going to be here for this anymore."
Yeah.
And again, just saying what I had to say and turned around and walked out. And oh my God, Amanda, it was the most liberating thing. And, it's not like overnight I didn't lose a concern and an empathy for her, but it was easier with time and distance to step away. But yeah, it's like, I can't carry you. And I might have said something to the effect of, yeah, I don't want to reincarnate with you anymore. And so I'm learning to deal with this. I'm learning to let go of these behavior patterns that I came in here to repeat so that I don't have to see you next time. I don't think I said it quite. I don't think I said it quite as bitchy and snarky as that, but that's definitely how I was feeling.
But sometimes that's the greatest gift we can give to people. Of this is my experience of you right now. Is this who you want to be in the world? Sometimes they need that delivery for it to land. It's incredible, but I'm not that. I'm always a little more. I'm always leaning in. I'm always kind of listening and trying to adjust and to be a good human. And so for me, I pick up on the subtleties, but some people really do need like the spiritual 2x4 blunt force trauma with words.
This is terrible. But what's coming to mind is like this the spiritual colon cleanse. It's like, here's the hose, go do that for yourself, babe. I'm not going to do that for you anymore.
No. Yeah, no. We should be able to just hand people a sticker that says you need a spiritual colon cleanse. Here, would you prefer coffee or no coffee with that? It should be an option.
Tagline. Tune in for Gila and I discussing the spiritual colon cleanse.
It is the purge that you never knew you needed.
Amanda, you're the best.
This is why I podcast. It's just purely fun all the time. Oh, goodness. It's the place where I'm most myself because I think my husband, as much as he loves me, has limits. He doesn't enjoy all of the woo hypnosis conversation. He's happy to hear some of it. He's happy when I've learned something and I'm like, oh, listen to this. This is so cool. This is blowing my mind. He's just like, yeah. Are you done?
You know what? I would not underestimate the fact that he's probably taking in a lot more than you give him credit for, or that you realize that he is, because they do.
Yeah.
They're still hearing it. It's still landing somewhere in their subconscious, and they might not
Yeah.
accept all of it. But over time, I think the repetition, little bits get in there.
This year will be 16 years, and I'm not going to lie, there have been times when I've done group hypnosis and I brought him along as a body, and all of a sudden he's saying something and I hear my words come out of his mouth, and I'm just like, huh, that did land.
There you go. There's your proof. There's your yes, ma'am.
It's never the things that I planted. Except for when he quit tobacco. That was intentional.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, I didn't ask if you have a hard stopping point. I don't want to bogart your night. I am having so much fun with you. Is there anything else you want to share?
I mean, you know, and we could go for a little bit longer. I don't have a client until for like about another hour from now. But yeah, I mean, if there's anything else that you feel you want to ask that's either related to, you know, the psychic statistics or the graphology or hypnosis, I'm here for it still.
Psychic statistics. Say more.
So yeah, as I mentioned, that's kind of like a term that I coined, and I went and I asked AI, ChatGPT, I said, search the annals of the internet and tell me annals. The annals is what I meant to say. Sorry. So I'm coming off that.
PG, rated PG. You know, I blame the colon cleanse. I am so sorry.
Anyway, rewind. Okay, so I asked the annals of ChatGPT to go and dive deep and find any hidden, obscure reference to psychic statistics, and they couldn't find any. So then I'm in the process now of doing what I need to do to trademark that, copyright it, whatever it is. Because really what it is it's a way for me, number one, to promote what I do in a way that's a little bit different. It gets people's attention. And I have a lot of people in my family, on my husband's side of the family especially, that are very, very analytical. They're scientists and researchers and analysts. And so they already think what I do is freaking weird, right? And so this is a way for me to talk about it. Well, hey, you know, there are certain patterns that you recognize that you use as data. And that's all palmistry is, and numerology and astrology and handwriting. It's like, if a person is born under this configuration of planets and stars at this particular time, they are likely to have this type of personality expression. And so we look at that and we can see the patterns cross over. One of the things that I would love to do, Amanda, is so I share the exact same coming of Earth day that Dave Matthews does. And I love Dave Matthews. I love the music, the band, all. And one of my fantasies is to have like a convention where if you were born on 1 January 1967, we all come and congregate at some really cool location, and we all just get to see our soul twins. Like, these are all the soul twins, the people that decided to come in on this day. And yes, in different parts of the world, but I think that would be so much fun. And then Dave Matthews would have to come. I mean, come on.
I am absolutely game. The only birthday twin I can think of is Robin Williams. He loves pugs and Boston Terriers, and so do I. So that sounds like a really good time to me.
I don't know. I would be so intrigued to sit across the room from somebody who came in on the same day that I did. And just, I don't know. There's just something really magical and playful and mystical about it that intrigues me. And I would really love to do that.
I think I would want to go like chronologically, like, okay, what were your 20s like? Let's compare now. Now we're going to go decade by decade just to see what lessons were you learning when. Oh, I remember that one. Ugh.
Remember when I told you I think in another lifetime I would make a good like analyst or profiler? So
yes,
here's what I did. So
I know what that's about, Kevin.
So I went on to one of those. First of all, I cannot find Dave Matthews' birth time anywhere on the internet. So if there's 6 degrees or less of separation between any of your listeners that could just like slip me on the down low his birth time, I really want to know. But because that tells us his rising sign, his ascendant, right? Mm-hmm. But the big planets, the ones that really don't move,
Yeah.
quickly, those we share. If you look at them, I pulled up his chart and my chart, and of course they're identical, right?
Mhm.
For the most part. So to sit across the room from somebody who has the identical birth chart as you, for the most part, I'm using identical hyperbolic, it's just hyperbole, but there's going to be little nuances and changes. But just how cool would that be? To see, yeah, exactly. What we're, because depending upon the statistics of what planet, what houses have what planet and what influence,
Mhm.
there's early childhood. You have to kind of step into an adult role a little early in your childhood. You might experience loss. You might experience an amount of success or change. And one of the things I saw is that the year that my son was born, New Life came to be. That's when his first album really hit.
Huh.
So I spent
Yeah.
one afternoon probably, sipping a chili cocktail, yummy of some kind. I thought, I'm gonna go see him. I just stalked him. I'm like, I'm gonna stalk his astrological chart and compare it to mine.
You should just tell him you're a huge fan and get a signature.
No doubt. I'm sure I could find it. But
You'd learn a lot
here's
more.
a funny, oh God, truth. Now I've seen his handwriting on set lists and things like that before.
Yeah.
But my grandmother worked in movies and television on my biological dad's side. So when she worked in movies and television doing hair, and this was in the 50s and 60s, and she was really, really held in high esteem. She was one of the only women who got jobs that mostly men got. And for a time in New York City, the story I got was that she was even paid more than the highest paid man to do hair on movies and television sets. So fast forward to when I'm 12 years old, and she's kind of semi-retired. She takes some jobs in New York City from time to time. And so I went with her to New York City one summer, and I just hung out with her when she was working on, I think it was called AM New York. And then she was also working on a soap opera. I think it was Another World, or anyway, one of those.
I was hoping you were going to say Days of Our Lives.
I can't even, to be honest, I don't remember.
It raised me,
wasn't
and
well.
it had Jensen Ackles. That was all I needed to know.
And your YM magazine, and that's it.
Yes,
that's all I
right.
need.
He was in there too. I saved those ones.
But yeah, I got to meet, some pretty famous people, and
Yeah.
and then through the years, I've in my little tiny town of Los Osos, through that 6 degrees of separation, I've worked with actresses that you would likely know. I've worked with musicians that you'd likely know, just because people hear about you. And I don't know, I'm not particularly starstruck by people who are famous. I don't know. I just, maybe because I know that we all have our shit. It's like, yeah, they're just people that have their shit too. They're up there, their soul is expressing itself through that. That's not to say I wouldn't
looks different. If they didn't go into the helping professions, they're just trying to heal that in a different way.
Yeah. That's not to say I wouldn't be super stoked if I met him, but I'm not going to be one of these people who'd be like, oh my God, I fall apart. I'd be like, oh, dude, let's get a beer. Let's chat.
Some people do. That's never really been much of a thing for me. I have one or two souls that I'm just like, oh, that one's really interesting. And I've enjoyed them for the span of their careers, but it's not very many.
Yeah.
But there are some people who really look at them as role models, and I've never taken that. I've never felt that way.
Yeah.
It's weird. And no one actually ever said, like, they're just people wearing socks. Don't idolize these people. And there was never a conversation. I had elementary school friends who did, who were full on into the star stuff and starstruck, and never really hit me. It's weird.
Yeah. Amanda, I like to attribute it to the fact that everyone who I ever looked up to disappointed me at some point. So it's like, I'm not going to bother looking up to you.
That might be
I'm not going to bother looking up to you because I just don't want to be disappointed.
It's like, it's another human. Yeah, I know. I've been there.
Okay.
Now, if they're a starseed, now I might be interested.
Do we have any questions in the chat that anybody has any questions they want to ask?
Kevin enjoyed our humor. That was about it for today. But this has been a very, very fun time, and I very much enjoyed this time with you. And God, you're
Likewise.
fascinating. And just when I think I'm going to learn about how fascinating you are, you fascinate me even more. So
Oh, sweet of you to
I
say.
may just have to catch you at a conference. I'm planning to take this year off of conferences a little bit because I've got some things that I really need to zero in on. So that's where I'm
Yeah.
saying no this year is less traveling, more nose to paper,
Good for you.
create
Good for
things.
you. Yeah, it's
But
important.
yeah,
It's important to know what works and what doesn't, isn't it?
it is. It is. Yeah. And sometimes it wants to change mid process, and we get to be with that too. That's okay. So maybe in future years, I'll be able to catch you either at Hypno Thoughts or at Hypno Expo. Maybe you'll come to Michigan one day. That could be cool too. Um,
Yeah.
at the very least, submit an article to the Hypno World magazine because I don't think
Okay.
anyone has covered graphology yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take a look. Remind me when Michigan is, because I think that falls right really close after Hypnothoughts, right?
No, September.
Oh, it's in
Yeah.
September. Okay. Oh, that's why I haven't. Cause I went to Mid America in the last 2 years. That's probably why. And this year I'll be in LA. Unfortunately, however, I will keep it on my mind because I would love to come
Yeah.
visit.
Mid America, it's not the same weekend. I want to say if you time it right, you could possibly hit both because I think they're bookends to a
Okay,
week.
gotcha. That's good to know.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they're bookends. I want to say the next Michigan Hypnosis Conference is coming up on the weekend of the 14th. But
Okay.
don't quote me because I haven't looked at a calendar lately. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
but
that's
it's a good
I'm
time.
definitely doing the Hypno LA one this September, and I think it might be that same weekend. And I'm
Ah,
on the East Coast, I
yeah,
don't know, West Coast, I should say. So for
yeah.
me to take a week off, and that's that's the challenge, right? It's like I am one
Yeah.
of these people who sees full-time clients all week. So if I don't work,
Hmm.
I'm not necessarily making that particular income. So when I do go to a conference, it's nice to make money with doing a
Yeah.
post or a pre-conference training because it kind of helps balance things on paper. But I'm
Are
definitely
you
not opposed to going to a conference just for fun.
are you majority in person or are you hybrid?
Both. I'm hybrid.
Yeah.
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 Even before the pandemic, I was seeing people online, like many people were. So it wasn't a big
Yeah.
shift for me.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
trained online, so it was no shift for me at all. The shift was going to in person, and I love that. So that's fine. That works. Thank you, Kevin. Michigan is September 11th to 13th. And that's where we are
Okay.
this year. It's the fifth year going. And it's kind of a home conference for me. For me, it's just a comfortable space. I've been there for 5 years. It's their fifth year.
Good.
It was one of the first places that I started public speaking, and they've been just a game changer. The whole reason this podcast exists is because of Michigan. Dan gives the
I love it.
best raffle prizes, and I won a huge piece of kit to the Rodecaster Pro, which is why the podcast is here. So
I love
super
it.
biased, super biased. But I'll send you the
We'll
magazine
definitely keep it in mind.
because I'd love to read more, and I know other people would too. And yeah, this has been very, very fun. I've learned so much from you in so little time. Thanks so
Yeah,
much for
it's been
joining me
fun.
today.
You're welcome. I really appreciate the invitation. I truly do.
Any final thoughts to anyone listening today?
Yeah. Let's not take ourselves so seriously all the time. Have a little fun. Have a little fun
Yeah.
once in a while. Be a little bit naughty. That's always my favorite.
And if you're taking yourself too seriously, then do consider the spiritual colon cleanse. All right,
Oh,
soulful seekers, you know the
I love it.
deal. I will give all of Gila's information so that you can find her, connect with her, and explore anything you want to explore with her. Thank you so much, Beverly. Very appreciated. I'll make sure you guys
Yes.
get all the info to reach out to her and to connect. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, stay well, but most of all, stay inspired. Bye for now.